Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and today we're back with another which is the better investment video. Robin, a new character in 2.2, or Topaz having her first ever rerun in version 2.2 first half. One is a Harmony character for physical Robin, and one is Topaz is a fire hunt character in Honkai Star Rail as well. Both of them are 5-star limited characters, but the question is, which one is the better investment? And we'll talk about a number of major things. The truth is, if you had unlimited resources, unlimited budget in an ideal world, they both make really great partners. An easy word would be like, just pick both, bro. Why don't you just get unlimited money and luck? But the reality is, we don't have unlimited money and luck. So I want to share with you my thoughts on which one is a better investment. And throughout the entirety of this video, I promise you I'll be as unbiased, no bias of my own personal vibes and stuff like that in this entire video. I'll leave that right at the end for any of you who are interested in my own personal take. But first things first, we always like to start off with current value, because if this current value basically says if they are not that great now, we can probably always like pick them up on a rerun or on a future date. But of course we'll talk about future value and stuff like that in a little bit. But first things first, who offers good value right now? I think the question then becomes, what is your game state of your account? If you are a person who already maybe has sufficient DPS, you are already quite comfortable with your position, you're 36 starring everything. In that sense, probably you don't really need a character like Topaz and Numby. Probably Robin will help you speed up your run regardless of what it is. So if you're looking for versatility in terms of like fitting into rosters, regardless of what comp you play, Robin will add a lot of value. And for those of you who have no idea what Robin does, think of her as something like a dance, this light cone over here that pushes everyone up. When she uses her out, she plays very well into follow-up teams because every time your teammate attacks, she attacks and get energy back and stuff like that. So that's why people are saying that she plays very well into a follow-up team. But the main attractive thing that fits her into most comps is the ability for her to push everyone like a dance. So everyone takes their turn immediately when she uses her out. She does good amounts of damage on the side, so offering a bit of a aventurine-like kind of like style from a defensive or supportive role. Very similar to Aventurine and what is he like bringing to the game. So if you have a general account, most people will probably benefit a little bit more currently from Robin compared to Topaz and Numby. Topaz and Numby is a bit more niche and geared towards team composition that is follow-up in nature. For those of you who don't know, and let's like shift focus from Robin, who's like super generalistic, I also want to talk a bit about Topaz and Numby now. For those of you who don't know, almost every single boss in the game, like the big elite monsters, are weak to either fire or imaginary. And we all have Doctor Ratio for free as of time of recording, of course, before 2.3 begins. Every one of us has Doctor Ratio for free, and if you pick up Topaz and Numby, a combination of fire and imaginary tackles any single content in the Memory of Chaos, whatever boss you might see. And that is also, I think, going to be true once the new boss, 2.2 boss comes out, that Harmony big boss we saw in the live stream. I believe it's also weak to fire and imaginary, so that trend still stays. This is an insanely useful comp for that main reason. But regardless, Doctor Ratio can play into a Robin team, can play into a Topaz team. We'll talk about who is better first in a little bit, of course. So that is my stance on the current value. Topaz and Numby offers a more niche playstyle for players who are looking to adventure into follow-up team compositions. Whereas Robin really fits into more comps right now, so I'll give the current value to Robin slightly higher, since she benefits more people across the board. If you were to throw a stone, most likely she's going to benefit your account in some way. As you know, the 5-star Harmony limiteds are very, very strong, unless you have them both already, of course, but we'll talk about that in the alternative section in a little bit. Generally, across the board, I think Robin will add more value for most people. Topaz and Numby, I feel, is a little bit more niche right now, but definitely still has a place, especially if we talk about some things that are coming up in 2.3 and beyond. So that's the current value, but talking about the current state is not very useful if we just look at these characters in isolation. We have to look at what other characters are currently in the game, because if we have them, it might change the requirement to have these characters. This is where I think Topaz and Numby starts to shine a little bit more, but let's go from left to right again, as we like to do, like more logical, sequential rather. If you have two good Harmony supports, for example, like Sparkle, for example, like Runmei, you could argue you could play multiple Harmony in one team composition. I have good ideas that is going to come out in the Robin team composition video that I'll put out later on. But let's just assume for simplicity's sake, because we don't have unlimited funds, unlimited budget, we just want to have at most 2 limited harmony characters. If you already have a character like Runmei and Sparkle, then the question is, do you really need an extra one right now, or do you much rather like sort out your defensive position, like Fucc is coming up, Aventurine is currently on the banner, help you survive a little bit more, rather than like piling all these harmony characters with no one to buff because everyone is just dead. So that is my opinion. If you are a player who already has both Runmei and Sparkle, you probably don't need a character like Robin just yet in the current game state. You could wait for a rerun because first reruns are always nearer. They will come back in approximately like 6 months time. I think the longest one was Luota, who was like 8 months for him to see his first rerun. But first reruns generally come back quite often. The question is, let's move on to Topaz and Numby now. If you are looking for a character like Topaz and Numby and you have been, maybe you picked up on the first time you chose Jingliu over Topaz and Numby, for example, and then you realize actually she actually gained quite a bit of value since then, since follow-up team composition, since Aventurine, you are interested in that attacking outside of your turn order kind of playstyle. First reruns, so far we have never had a second rerun. So if you miss Topaz and Numby, the next time she comes back will be like question mark, question mark, question mark. It could be a year later, 2 years later. And if you do not pick up a core character who is going to be part of a follow-up team compositions, you might as well perhaps don't invest too much in follow-up team compositions and like skip that whole entire section. But if you like that playstyle, I would say that Topaz and Numby really doesn't have any alternatives right now in the game. If you are looking for follow-up buffers, the alternative really is like Robin herself, who buffs fallout damage. But Topaz and Numby, one thing that I want to say is that she also is able to play a supportive role. One of the biggest misconceptions is people think of Topaz and Numby as a hunt character, very similar to likes of Dr. Ratio as a pure DPS, or Zealer-like character, or even Boot Hill, who we'll talk about in another video as well, this kind of same format. Not really quite the case. She actually is a hunt character by nature, but she is more of a supportive hunt character than a super offensive one, especially for most people who don't have like her super well invested E6, C, and R5 and all that kind of stuff. This Return to Darkness is an insanely good light cone for any small spender. It's a battle pass light cone, but it changes the way Topaz and Numby is played completely. Because for those of you who don't know this, because of course it's a battle pass light cone, not everyone knows this, whenever you crit, you have a chance of dispelling a buff from the enemy. Topaz and Numby hits very often. Hunt characters generally have good amounts of crit, and because of the number of lines that she hits, the number of instances, it's very easy to dispel buffs from the enemy. So Topaz and Numby becomes a dispeller with the battle pass light cone. No other hunt character actually wants to play it like that, making Topaz and Numby even more better support than she already is, at the same time doing a bit of fire break damage, a bit of single target damage on the side as well. So I think that's like not really talked about. She is in a class of her own. In terms of supporting the follow-up teams, I think it's very special. The only real alternative to Topaz and Numby in terms of follow-up team buffers is Robin herself, but they of course fulfill slightly different niche. If I were to choose one to form a core of my follow-up teams, I would likely pick a character like Topaz and Numby first if I want to give a chain that fail, especially if I already have Runmei. I could see myself just playing a Runmei, Topaz and Numby Dr. Ratio team, and you can fit in like Aventurine in the last slot. This would more or less be okay as well, but just for the merits of how good Runmei is as well. So that is my thoughts on the alternative sections. I feel that there are more alternatives for Robin than there are to Topaz and Numby, so I'll give this section an advantage to Topaz and Numby right now. But looking at just the current landscape does miss out a very important thing. As you guys know, not everything is just in the present. We also want to know what future value they bring. This section here, future value, and the subsequent section that we'll talk about really answers the question, why do you need these two characters right now? Or would it actually be better pulling them for a rerun, like the first rerun, save your resources, get like some other characters? Let's talk about how they appreciate over time. Also, because you don't want to pull a character and then they become useless 2 to 3 months later, very easy to power creep and stuff like that. First things first, between these two characters, I honestly think that they match off very closely to each other in terms of future value. They play into amazing trends, they play into very similar trends. Unfortunately, Hoyoverse put them out right at the same time. If they put them back to back, at least we could play into both of them, get both of them in the rerun. But both of them play into the same trend of follow-up teams becoming more apparent in the game. and also at the same time, both of them are being slightly supportive in nature, and ironically both dealing damage and helping the team do more damage as well. One of the things that I want to talk about is future value in terms of both of them. Let's start off first with Robin. Her future value, we all know, 5-star limited harmony characters are insane. If you look at the characters like Runmei, you look at characters like Sparkle, they age gracefully so far and they add value to any account. Anyone who has one of these two characters are very happy with both of them, and the truth is you likely will be very, very happy with a character like Robin on your account. She is very, very crazy because it's like a entire team push. Any game with a character like this, as we mentioned, with a whole team-wide push is really super strong. I don't see a team-wide push being irrelevant anytime soon. In fact, that's one of the things that makes Esther so good, is because she buffs the entire team with speed. She has dance on. If you slap it on her, becomes like a pseudo push. Robin's like a 5-star Esther. You guarantee the push, so you don't even give them speed. This is very, very good, especially for characters who don't scale with speed. If your entire team is like super slow, you want them to go, this push helps remove speed from the entire equation, which is very nice because you can reallocate those stats into something else that is maybe more useful, like attack and stuff. That is my thoughts for Robin. I think most people will be quite happy with this character. She's going to scale very well. Follow-up teams very strong. She is versatile, can fit into most team compositions regardless of what it is. Offers a bit of damage on the side. So if you get better gear, more gear comes out in future. And even like break effect teams, where maybe it scales off with break effect, her ultimate is a cast ability, which means that you're able to buff your entire team with the Watchmaker set as well, break effect. So she also could play into those teams. And action advancing is definitely not anything less. Although, of course, if they don't play follow-up, you don't get to maximize her entire kit. I still think that she won't be irrelevant in that sense. Of course, some other Harmony characters might outperform, but that's not for the case for this video. Now let's move on to talk about Topaz and Numby. Topaz and Numby, when she first came out together with Jingliu, we talked about in the video already, her value, we said back then, would increase over time, and this, of course, is the video that you can tell 3 months, 4 months later, her value has increased like stonks, really very good. Anyone who has her, you will be like breathing a sigh of relief and stuff like that, because you don't have to make a decision between both of them. She's a very strong character, but truth be told, might not have popped off on your account until maybe just recently. Like only recently probably, and then she started getting a bit more relevant, especially with a character like Dr. Ratio coming into the mix. As we know, a team of fire and imaginary tackles most elite bosses in the game. And I think that is probably the team that you're going for. If you are looking for Topaz and Numby, you likely are very interested in the follow-up team compositions. You likely already put a character like Aventurine as well. And I think that if you want to complete your follow-up IPC com, a team of Aventurine, Topaz and Numby, Dr. Ratio, and any like 5-star Harmony support will add a lot of value. Of course, Robin will be ideal, but you can always pull on Robin's rerun of 3 months from now, 6 months from now, and then you complete your team. Just need to wait a bit more, but Topaz and Numby, you don't know when her rerun is going to come. I do think both of them will scale really well. Who offers better investment value in terms of future trends? I think that a character like Topaz and Numby has appreciated in value, but the trajectory for a character like Robin would stabilize, and I think both of them would... I would say this is a very tricky one. As you can tell, I'm like a bit stuttering on my decision making. I think I'll name this a draw. Both of them play into very nice teams. One is slightly more offensive, like Topaz and Numby. One offers a 5-star Harmony, very, very solid roster. But the only reason why I don't want to put Robin as a clear winner is because ultimately Runmei exists, Sparkle exists, Bronya exists. There's a lot of competition, and I don't think that she is irreplaceable in that sense because of the number of other options available, which is why I wanted to talk about the next category, which is potential. And this is where it becomes a bit more subjective because it's taking into account what Hoyoverse might plan to do based on stuff that they tend to do more often than not. And truth is, we are almost at the end of Panacony, but IPC trend is just starting. I think that you already know that Jade is coming out in future. If Jade somehow plays into a same thematic of maybe follow-up team comps, a team of Topaz and Numby, Aventurine plus Jade might work really, really well. But that's like super speculative. That's why I put it in this potential section. But chances are there's going to be more IPC characters that come out. One is Erudition, Jade is Erudition, Topaz and Numby is Hunt, we have Aventurine who is like Preservation, and they will likely release maybe more different paths, like maybe Diamond is like Harmony or something like that, who knows, right? But at least Topaz and Numby has a clear catalyst to appreciate her acceleration into the future. And at the same time, Robin, we are kind of like at the end of Panacony already. We don't really know what else they plan to do. She is a very strong unit, very stable, but in a cornerstone, no pun intended, in a bit of a corner situation right now. The only thing that maybe the Hoyoverse wants to pair and make them work really well together is probably a character like Sunday, who has yet to be announced. But other than that, I think Topaz and Numby still slightly outperforms in terms of Hoyover's marketing scheme. Doesn't mean that Robin is not that great character. A character like Ranmei I will also rate slightly lower than Topaz and Numby in terms of catalysts available from what Hoyoverse likes to do as well. But yeah, that is honestly my thoughts. Then again, DPS characters tend to be power crap a bit faster because damage is always the biggest thing in turn-based games, is how much damage you can do. People like to buy DPS characters, but we said DPS characters tend to not do so well, but Topaz and Numby has proven us wrong. It's probably one of the only DPS characters who has gotten better with time, and that's very rare in a turn-based game. So can she continue that trend? We'll have to see. But one thing for sure that is keeping her very, very good, and let's talk about the next option, is I think definitely the accessibility of options. One thing for sure is Harmony characters have it a lot easier in terms of free-to-play kit, but Topaz and Numby is one of those characters, DPS characters, that's very free-to-play friendly. Even if you don't have Return to Darkness and you don't get that niche dispelling, you still have a lot of free options available and a lot of strong hunt character like Cones. As you know, Zilla was very popular early in the game because of the free cruising the Stellar Sea, the Herta shop like Cone. 5-star stats gives you a lot of stats, gives you a lot of crit as well, which hunt characters generally like. Robin, of course, is very, very free to play friendly. You can probably run with E0, S0, you don't need her signature like Cone. But one thing for sure is both of them actually do want better stats. DPS characters like 5-star gear. Robin, skills based on her attack, she wants 5-star stats as well. So with that said, there's currently no 5-star Harmony like Cone available in the Herta shop, but there is a 5-star Hunt like Cone in the Herta shop, making Topaz and Numby, I think, just a tad free-to-play friendly in terms of the gear that you can get, whereas Robin, you probably, for a free-to-play player, have to make do with hopefully not a 3-star like Cone that gives you energy, like Mashing Cocks or something like that. Let's hope we don't have to use that, because if not, she'll feel very, very lackluster. So I do think that in terms of investment, Robin does need a slightly higher requirement than Topaz and Numby. So I'll have to give the free-to-play kit slightly more to Topaz and Numby for the investment point of view. But for relics, I think that Robin is way easier to build. You don't need crit at all. So all your crit gear can go to like your DPSs. You just slap on attack, probably like some energy restoration, and more or less good to go. We'll talk about Robin a little bit in her specific build guide video, but that's just a very quick generic overview. Comparing like to a DPS character, you need a lot more crit rate, a lot more crit damage, you need more stats and blah blah blah, attack percentage, speed and stuff. So a lot more higher requirements to build, whereas at least you don't have to have that whole crit requirement for Robin. And for that aspect, in terms of relic farming and efficiency wise, I would rank Robin slightly higher. This is the fun part, of course. We are now at the end. We talk about all 5. I hope that you found it helpful so far. And if any of you who are interested in my opinion, and let's talk about it, this is a very, very tricky one. The logical thing to actually do is to pull the 5-star Harmony characters if you do not have enough. Robin is very, very strong. I like her kit a lot. Entire team push opens many opportunities. It buffs follow-up teams like crazy. I think this unit is going to be extremely insane, extremely fun. Topaz and Numby, on the other hand, is also a really, really strong unit. For me, personally, I'm going with Robin if I already have many DPSs, because outside of follow-up team compositions, you probably won't play Topaz and Numby too much, but I could see myself pairing Robin together with many different teams, even with other Harmony characters in the game, and I will talk about team compositions for Robin in the next video or the video after, so stay tuned to the channel. I think you'll be very excited to know more about what this character can do, rather than just being fit into a boring follow-up teams. But anyways guys, that's my honest opinion. If you appreciate such content, we'll be doing one comparing even Robin with Ranmei, Boot Hill with other characters, so stay tuned to the channel, and see you guys in the next video.